Hi, everybody. Okay, today we are going to go over the periodic table of elements practice sheet that's on page 11. And then I've got some other things I need you to do. So let me just talk to you about today's tasks. If you guys turn in your notebooks to page 11, you're going to see that you have a blank worksheet that's going to ask you to locate different elements and then fill in the rest of the element square there with the important information. I've got a little bit of an explanation for you, and then we'll do the first one together kind of as an example, and then you guys are going to be done with that. When you're finished, then you need to come up and actually, what I'm going to tell you is when you're finished with the element square practice worksheet, I'm going to have some keys, some answer keys up on my table in the front of the classroom. I need you to bring your notebook up and check to make sure that you are correct. If you're not, you need to use a different color pen to make some revisions. Make sure that you understand why you got it wrong, and then you'll go ahead and come up to me afterwards, and then you're going to get your atoms in the periodic table of elements quiz. It's called Show What You Know. It's only a 10-question quiz. Now these are due Friday by the end of school, so by 3:30 on Friday. You can use your notes. You absolutely can use your book. You're welcome to do that. This quiz is just checking to make sure that first of all you know the different parts of the atom, and second of all that you know the different parts of the periodic table square. Okay, so once you're finished with that, this is a paper copy. You're going to hand it in to me. I'm going to grade it. I'll give them back to you on Tuesday when we're back next week. And then you're going to put those back in your notebooks. You're going to glue those into your notebooks. Okay? If for some reason you get finished and you still have time in class, I want you to use the rest of class to study your vocabulary. We are going to have the periodic table of element test on Tuesday. This test is not your vocabulary test. This test is making sure that you understand atoms and the periodic table of elements. You need to know the definition. You need to know your vocabulary in that you need to know what it's talking about on the test, not that you need to fill in the definition. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and get started. Turn in your books to page 9 and 10. This is your copy of the periodic table of elements. And I want you all to use this if you need it, because also at your desk, you're going to see that you have this periodic table of elements. Remember when I told you that there are a lot of different variations of the periodic table, and there's different color coding and different things are highlighted, and depending on what you're using it for, different things are like I said, different things are highlighted and whatever. So this periodic table of elements in pictures, I want to use this because you guys are going to get ready. You're getting ready to pick an element that you want to research and that you are going to turn into either a superhero or a supervillain. And this periodic table I like a lot because it kind of tells you what in real life, what does this element, how is this element used? I also have a couple books up at the front of the room that have a lot of information about the elements and about molecules. I'll talk about that more when we get ready to do the research. You guys can use that as a resource as well. Sometimes on this periodic table of elements and pictures, it's kind of hard to see. There's so much stuff on there, it's hard to find like your symbol. And so if you want to use this periodic table on page 9 and 10 to find the symbol, to find out where the element is, and then go back over and find it in the periodic table of elements and pictures, and then you'll use that periodic table to finish filling out the information on your worksheet. All right, let's get started. I want to show you a couple things that are different between the two so that you know what you're doing when you're working with the periodic table of elements and pictures. Okay, first thing, take a look across the top. This one is a little bit confusing. Take a look at the very top left where it says periods, and then it has an arrow going down. I want to remind you that the periods actually go across the rows. The reason why that arrow is pointing down is because it's pointing to the number 1, which is the first period, and then number 2 is the second period and third period, and that they go across. That arrow there is a little bit misleading. I don't like that. But if you have, like if you're like, oh gosh, I can't remember, just go back and look on your periodic table. Remember on page 9, you have written periods go across, groups go up and down. Okay. Also, a nice thing about this is if you look across the top of each one of the columns, it actually numbers it. So it says group 1. Then if you jump over to group 13, it says group 13, group 14. So hopefully that will help you remember periods go across the row and groups are in the columns. Second thing I want to show you here is that the groups are all numbered, but they're named something a little bit different. Let me give you an example. So group number 1 and 2 are alkali metals and alkali earth metals. That's what you have them labeled as. And then we have the transition metals. That's what you've got. But then when you get over to 13, it calls them boron group, carbon group, nitrogen group. And we have ours color-coded and named a little bit different. That's okay. I'd like you to go ahead and use whatever is written on this periodic table because it's talking about that column as a whole, and that'll just make your lives a little bit easier, okay? Let's keep going. Down at the bottom, we have the lanthanoids and the actinoids that are pulled out. If you look at element number 57 through 71 and 89 through 103, the actinoids, that's what they've got labeled. They have them actinides, which is fine. But then the lanthanoids, they have those labeled rare earth metals. That's okay. That's fine. You can have that. That's okay. And then lastly, the elements 104 through 118, they just have those labeled as super heavy elements. They're radioactive. They're never found in nature. There's no uses except for atomic research. Now we've got element 112 in there that's actually a transition metal. This periodic table in pictures must be an older version. It's fine for whatever we're doing right now. It's okay. You're not going to have to answer any questions about those 104 to 118. And in fact, when you think about the element that you want to research, I'm going to really, I've lost the word. I'm going to caution against, in fact, I won't let you choose any of these super heavy elements that are radioactive because they're never found in nature. They're man-made, they're synthetic. And so it will be very difficult to do a lot of research because there's not a whole lot out there. So that's why I'm going to discourage you from choosing these elements when you go to do your research. So that's fine too. Okay, across the top, let me show you. In that first box on the left, this is like any other periodic table where it's going to have an example of an element square, and then it points out the features of the element square. So this is not anything different. We've got the atomic symbol on the top left. Sometimes different periodic tables have the element symbol a different place. So that's why we always will have this key at the top of any periodic table just to help you orient yourself so you know what you're looking at. So we've got the atomic symbol at the top left. Then the next thing over is symbols. I'm going to come back to that in a second. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. Then we have the atomic number. The atomic number is the number of protons. They have Z there just because they're not using an actual element for this example. They're just having an example. So remember, the atomic number is the number of protons. It will indicate the number of electrons and neutrons in a stable element, but the atomic number specifically tells us the number of protons. And then there's a place underneath where your element name will be named. And then there's an image in the middle, and then down below it says widgets. And then it says, how is it or was it used or where it occurs in nature. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later too. Okay? Whoops, there's symbols. Now those symbols, I'm going to go back. The symbols here, that's what I've got on this next page. So the symbol, you're going to either see a square, a liquid teardrop, or a cloud like gas. And that tells you what state of matter that element is at room temperature. Okay, so for example, if you look at element number 40, that's zirconium. You can see that it's a square. That means it's a solid at room temperature. Bromine, which is element number 35, that's a liquid at room temperature. And then nitrogen, because it has that cloud, that is a gas at room temperature. So you're going to have to identify whether something is a solid, liquid, or a gas at room temperature. Okay? Couple things over here on this side. It says the color of the symbol is the color of the element in its most common pure form. Take a look at the example. It's got a square and it says metallic solid. Do you see how it has that like shiny white stripe going diagonal? Take a look at gold. See how gold, I can tell that it's a metal as opposed to sulfur. Both of them are yellow, but gold is a metal, whereas sulfur is not. Sulfur doesn't have that line showing me that it's a metal. Okay, so if you are looking at the color of something when you're doing your research, especially next week, make sure you don't say it's a metallic. It's not. Gold is, because it has that little diagonal. All right, the rest of that stuff on the periodic table, you'll just see some symbols every now and again. Like if you look at gold, right next to that metallic solid square, you'll see a crown. And so this is called a noble metal. It's corrosion resistant. So you might find some of those symbols on there. You're not going to need that for this activity, but this is really good for when you guys do your research. Oh yeah, and then zirconium, I forgot. Zirconium was your just regular metallic solid, whereas gold is going to be like a golden color. All right, moving over to the color key. The color key is a little bit different than the one that we did. Theirs is a little bit more simple. A couple things I want to point out. First of all, looking over at their metals down below, they've got poor metals, metalloids we have, and then they have non-metals. And so we were a little bit more specific and we colored ours a little bit more detailed, and then you guys have the color key on your pages. I think it's on page 9. This one is just a little bit more general. They're calling them poor metals, non-metals, and then the entire group 18 is called a halogen, and then you have your noble gases. Okay, the noble gases were the same. Down below, I had already talked about the lanthanoids that we have labeled on pages 9 and 10. They have that labeled as a rare earth metal. Again, not anything that you're going to need for this activity, but it's good that you understand that so that moving in, I'm going to make these periodic tables available for you during your research. So this is a good thing for you. Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're using this key to fill in the missing information in the element squares below. I want to point out, again, we have an example, all right? You guys will need to make sure that your symbols, your squares, have the element symbol, the atomic number, the element name, the use, what period it's in, what group it's in, and the family name. The family name is what's on that periodic table of elements in pictures, and it's the name of the groups going down. So element number 2 is helium. It is all the way over. It's in period 1. Take a look on your sheet. It's in period 1, group 18. And so the picture at I wonder if I have one. Hang on. Nope. Hey, let me go back really fast. Sorry. Okay, so the noble gases is 18. It's period 1, group 18, and so the name at the top of that is the noble gas. So whatever name is on top of that group, that's what you're going to write down as the family name. Okay, let me go all the way through this again. You are not going to have to draw a picture of the use. You don't have to. Not for this. I'm okay if you guys don't do that. So just go ahead and put an X there and know that you don't have to do that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now on this worksheet, you're going to be given one clue, and from that one clue, you will be able to get any and all information that you need to put on there. Just remember, you have to label the other 6 things. So if you only have 5 things labeled, you're missing one. So make sure that you go through, look at the example that's at the top, and fill in everything except for the picture of the use. We're going to do the first one together. And so the clue that we're given is the element symbol, and it's capital N, lowercase e. So I'm going to give you a second to find it. And hopefully you found it. It's neon, and it's element number 10. This is where I was going to say it's kind of difficult to see those symbols. You guys have younger eyes than I do. So if you want to find the NE on your periodic table on page 9 and 10, and then see what element number it is, and then come back over here and get all the information that you need for the worksheet, you can certainly do that. All right, so let's start and fill this in. So the element symbol is there. Great. We need the atomic number. Remember, this is the number of protons. So go ahead and put in 10. We need the element name. And then I'm not making you draw a picture, but we do need a, what is it used for? So you're going to put in advertising signs. And then you have to put in the period, group, and family. So if you look right next to neon, you've got the number 2 there. It's in the second period. It's in group number 18. And the family name is Noble Gas. So then you're done with that one. And you guys are just going to move on and continue on through that worksheet and finish that up, okay? Once you're finished with that, I want you to check it, revise it if necessary. When you're done, then please come up and get your quiz from me. You may use your book. Your quizzes are due at 3:30 today. All right, good luck.